All right, this is my live video for the month. I think I've got this working right. Facebook is constantly changing the way that they do this, so hopefully you can see me. Hope everyone's doing well. Hopefully everyone's surviving quarantine. Hopefully we're getting closer to being done with quarantine. I'm sure everyone is dying for just to get out and live life again. We actually have a pretty nice sunny day here. I'm at the Jersey Shore right now, so feeling a little bit of hope here as the weather's getting better, but a lot going on. And Sean asked me today to start off with just talking a little bit about the economy, the markets, and then I have some questions to answer. So I'll get right into it. And a couple of things I look at right now. Obviously, we invest people's money. If you've checked out our website or my bio or anything like that, and wealth management essentially is just trying to make sure that people can build their nest egg, they can live off their nest egg, when they want to finally retire. And strategically, we always have to be thinking about the markets and the economy. And what we've seen since I did my last since I did the last video is, markets have had a tremendous rise from the bottom. We had first off this huge sell-off with the pandemic. We saw the markets come crashing down with the bottom around March 23rd right now, and then since then markets are up in some cases over almost 30% from the bottom. So we've had this magnificent move down. We've had a magnificent move up so far, and the question is, well, is the other shoe going to drop now? Is the market can continue to go higher here, or are we just getting duped into seeing the market sell off again? I mean, the news is terrible right now. The economy is in bad shape. I mean, we have literally 26 million people right now that are unemployed, which is just an astronomical number. It's like depression level numbers. And if you look at corporate profits right now, companies are starting to report, and it's just abysmal because we're all sitting inside. This is a consumer-based economy. Rather. America loves to go out. We love to spend. We love to be outside doing things. And right now we're being completely restricted, and then extrapolate that out to the rest of the world, right? So the whole world right now is in shutdown. We've never seen anything like this. It's unprecedented. Maybe you can argue the Spanish flu is very similar in the sense that we actually did have social distancing back then in 1917. It did actually work, and markets did actually recover. But what I want you to think about right now is, things actually look a lot better than they are. And I don't know what state you're in. That probably does vary from state to state, city to city. But if you look at things, we're starting to see some signs of hope. I know in New York right now, they're talking about a soft open come the middle of this month, or middle of May rather. We're almost into May. And that could be construction going back to work, and other designated fields can start to go back to work. And in every city, I mean, Georgia, there's parts of Georgia right now that are completely opening up to some people's unhappiness. But the point is, it looks like we're starting to move past that. Now, from a market perspective, because people are saying, well, why the market's going up? The news is terrible. I think this is a really, really important thing. And I don't remember I talked about this on our last Facebook Live, but it is so critical to understand the economy and the stock market are not the same exact thing, and they don't move in lockstep. They're similar, they are interconnected, but not the same thing. So what's important to think about with the stock market is the stock market is what we call a discounting mechanism for the future. Okay, and that's like a really fancy way of saying the stock market's projecting out into the future. It's not about what's happening right now. And one of the reasons the market's had this magnificent rally is because the market's starting to look past this whole global pandemic, past this lockdown, and starting to look at what does the other side of this thing look like when businesses start to open up again. And what the market's telling you is it's relatively optimistic. At some point we are going to mobilize, we are going to get back to work. Might not be 100% to where we were before, but a lot of the business is going to come back, and it's going to come back quickly. And there's going to be new businesses and new ways of doing things that we never did them before. We saw this out of when the tech bubble burst back in the late 90s. We saw this when the financial crisis blew up. You have what we call creative destruction. New things happen and new things are created out of these times of turmoil, and that ends up being a very good thing. And a lot of the companies that were doing bad already, they just get sped up out of existence quicker than they would have had we not had this pandemic. So it kind of cleans out the system a little bit too. So that's one important thing to remember is the market's going to be way ahead of the news. Like in fact, just to give you another data point, the economy, the first bad news about the lockdown or the shutdown didn't come into play until March 24th, whereas the market had already bottomed on March 23rd. The market had already repriced all that bad information, gotten it out, was already moving ahead a day before we actually started seeing bad news. So, as you're thinking about getting your savings invested for the long term, for retirement, you're thinking about investing in the markets, I would say this is a very good time to do it. Uncertainty is very high. We don't know what the certainty, we don't know what the future looks like per se. And we have an old saying in my firm, and that's you can't get good prices without bad news. Meaning when things are good, the news is good, we feel certain, prices are already higher, you miss the opportunity. So when uncertainty is high and the news is bad, you get a discount in prices. It's almost like the old saying, straw hats in the wintertime. Well, I want you to use that same mentality right now as if you are saving, you are looking to get your money invested. And I talked about this last time, do it diversified. Don't think you're going to pick the winners. You can try to do that, but what we found is historically it's better just to own the market than trying to understand exactly what picks are going to be the best. It's going to be hard to know until this thing or the dust settles. So just something to keep in mind as well as you're looking to invest your portfolios and make decisions about that. And you can always hit me up for questions offline. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the market. I'll also mention right now, something I've been saying a lot recently is don't fight the Fed. The monetary and fiscal stimulus that's being pumped into the economy right now is of like unfathomable proportions. It's almost 3 times what we saw back during the financial crisis. They're putting so much money into the economy, into the system right now. It's really lessening the blow of this huge pandemic crisis of the economy being stopped completely. So I want you to keep that in mind as well right now. Like there's going to be a lot of money that's going to find its way into the stock market because some companies are taking that money, taking those loans, probably don't need it. They're going to end up taking some of that money and some of it's going to end up going in their pocket, in some cases being saved, put back into the stock market. So there's a lot of money out there sloshing around the system right now, something to the tune of 50% of GDP. It's going to be like $9 trillion, some estimate when this thing is all said and done. That's a lot of money. So it's hard to bet against the Fed right now. It's hard to hard to get a bet. I can't speak today. Bet against essentially, what the government's doing right now in terms of stimulus. A lot of people are actually going to have more money in their pocket coming out of this thing, which is kind of crazy. So just something else to think about. Now to your questions. Let's move over to the mailbag, so to speak. So the first question comes in from Alex Kwan. He writes, Ryan, what are your thoughts on profit-related pay versus a performance-based salary? For context, we want to promote the assistant director at one of our childcare centers to the head director at a different location. I'm sure profit-related pay is more incentivizing, but is it offering too much? If so, how would you structure performance-based salary when trying to grow and retain customers? Okay, this is a great question, and my rule of thumb is, number one is I always like to pay a little bit more. If you have good people, pay a premium for them. Don't skimp when you have really good people. Even with high unemployment right now, a lot of people are going to go back to work really quickly, so it will be a very competitive landscape again very shortly. So I think first off, I like the way you're thinking, Alex. I think performance pay is always a great way to do things. Most of the comp at my firm is performance-based. Whether they're an advisor that gets a percentage of the fee of the assets they manage, or even my admin people, they get a bonus every quarter based on performance. So I really like you tying the economics of this specific manager into the actual location. And I think it's really important to let your employees understand your business, understand what the revenues are, understand what overhead you have. A lot of times I think it's popular to keep your employees in the dark, and some employees you maybe can't tell everything, but we have a very open culture about what our revenues are, what money comes in, what goes out, and I think that an educated employee is a good employee. So I would tie it to some kind of economic milestone or something that would not only benefit the person if they hit those numbers, that are going to benefit you and your business as well. So you want to make it so that really it's kind of a virtuous circle, or you're both on the same page, right? Or you're both incentivized the same way. So I like the idea of tying. Maybe they have a base, but maybe on some of the revenue, or I like net profits better because revenue, I don't know what your overhead is, but all our incentives are based on net revenue because it's all about profits, right? That's all that matters. But tied into profitability, if you get X number of profitability, they get X percent. Dial them into what those numbers look like, how they can do that, and then they start working more like your partner than just one of your employees. So I think that's a great way to do it. I'm a big fan of it, and I think that absolutely incentivizing your employees to be part of the actual economic growth of your business is huge. And if they don't hit it, then they don't get their number, but they understand why. It's not arbitrary. I used to run track in college and high school, and I like track because it's like you either won the race or you didn't, right? So the economics are they actually hit the number, they don't hit the number. So I think that's a great way to do things, and I like your thinking there. Next question comes in from Adam Drake. Question he asks is, my target market is independent financial advisors like me, and I'm trying to build my database. I've scraped data from public sources, broker check, such as first name, last name, years of experience. I have their emails, since their corporate email follows a pattern like jsmith@company.com. Here are the challenges. Number one, addresses are sketchy because many of these people list the home offices as their address. Not helpful, true. Googling these people is time consuming and difficult. I don't know where many are based actually. What I really want is phone numbers. Question, are there any creative ideas on getting phone numbers, or is this just a brute force project? My sense is cold emails will have a very low response rate. Thank you. I'd recommend going to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can get a huge list of independent financial advisors. You can actually filter that way. And most people on LinkedIn have most of their information. I just checked mine before this actual video to see what information on me was on my LinkedIn. I actually have our firm phone number, our office phone number, and my email, which I'm going to take off now because I don't want marketers harassing me. Only joking. But Adam, no, I think that's actually a great place to go. LinkedIn is just like, it's a chock full of great information you can get on any sort of demographic you're trying to hone in on. And I think a lot of financial people are on LinkedIn. They actually use it actively. I know I do, and I get a lot of stuff through LinkedIn. A lot of our views and stuff come through LinkedIn. So I think that's a great place to start. You can buy their premium product. It costs like $150 a month or something like that, but you could build an awesome list there. You could target people there. Actually, a LinkedIn message I think can be more effective a lot of times because you get so inundated in your inbox and your email, and you can make it short, tight, concise message. You could probably do a lot of damage that way. So I would check out LinkedIn. I think that's a no-brainer for you. Esteban Salas, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Question is, I'm bringing on a partner in my new business. Congratulations. I've heard there's lots of legal things to take into consideration when bringing on a legal business partner. In your experience, what are things we need to do to protect ourselves? Also, what would you recommend as it relates to the way we pay ourselves? Okay. With a business partner, a new business partner, I think you definitely want to have all your legal docs in place. You want to be very specific about everything from pay, what rules are in place if you want to sell the business. I'm not a lawyer, but I think you definitely want to get a lawyer involved. I think it's a no-brainer. And just make sure that you break down everything. I've heard so many horror stories with people in business where it didn't work out. So I think having that plan in place ahead of time, just assuming like, hey, this is a great relationship, you're kind of in the courting stage, everything feels good, but make sure you have something in place that says, look, if we don't agree, or this doesn't work out, there's a defined way that you guys can separate ways. And when it comes to compensation, that really just depends on, I don't know if your partner is going to be doing 50% of the work, 30% of the work, but that's something you have to determine, and that's what their split should be, right? I don't want to give someone 50% if they're only going to be doing 35% of the work. So that's something you really have to determine, but definitely get a lawyer involved. Not sure where you're located, but if I can help you get a business lawyer to set that up, I'm happy to help out. Just shoot me a note offline and we can figure that out for you. But you're asking the right questions, and I think, yes, absolutely get legal docs in place that break down and essentially really, paint out everything for you. So next question comes in from Roland. Hey Ryan, did I hear that you do business with your dad? If so, I am too. I'm wondering how to get my dad to listen to my ideas. He is sort of set in his ways and I'm only 25, but I know I have ideas that can help the company. What can I do to build the relationship and help him and the company? Okay, Roland, yes, I actually do work with my dad. We're actually partners. It's a little bit different, so I don't know your certain circumstances. We started our business together, so it's a 50-50 partnership. All decisions are made 50-50. So I don't know if it was his business. Now he's getting you involved in the business. But I think it's important that you establish some kind of rules. Like I guess with my father and I, we kind of understand that we kind of discuss anything we want to do before we do anything. I'm going to spend a lot of money. I'm going to say, hey, I'm looking to do this for the business. What do you think? And we both agree on it. So maybe establishing, what the rules are. Again, kind of like we were just talking about in the last question about if you set up a legal entity to just decide what the decision-making processes are, what the rules are for what the partnership looks like. Maybe you should do that with your dad. Maybe sit down and just say, hey, I have some ideas for the business. I'd like to talk to you about them and understand, like, what are my roles in the business? What am I able to do, not able to do? But establishing that could be very, very powerful. And I think, it's hard, especially if it's his business and he's been running it a certain way. I think it's a tougher, bigger uphill battle that you've got to kind of go against. But I think having a direct conversation with him and saying, look, I have a couple ideas, and to say maybe can I run with some of these ideas could be very, very helpful. But I think me establishing again some of those things with how the relationship's going to work in the business as opposed into your personal life. And they bleed together. I mean, my dad and I's personal business relationship is almost really one and the same. But I think it just comes down to we kind of are on the same page in terms of how we build our business, and we have a philosophy that's similar, so that does help. So I think those are the kind of things you want to establish with your dad. Make sure you have the same, it's like any partner, right? You have the same philosophy, same beliefs, and I just would be very blunt. Like, there's some things I'd like to try, and would it be okay? And maybe put some metrics around that. So I think that's a little bit like vague advice. So I apologize, Roland. But if you want to talk about that a little more offline, again, shoot me a note. I'm happy to talk to you about that. I think it's a good question, and I think it's important that you voice your opinion and get to try some of your ideas, especially you're 25. It's time to take some risk and try some things. Okay, next question comes in from Abraham Marcos. He writes, Ryan, I'm looking to set up possibly quarterly or annual bonuses for certain team members. How do I figure out how much is fair? Okay, this goes back to the first question. I love this idea. Like, everything should be performance-based, in my opinion. So I would find out what people on your team would make at a competitor. And again, I don't want to be on the low end with compensation. I want to be on the high end. I just think that it's like penny wise, dollar foolish if you have good people to marginalize them on their pay. You paying them a little bit more, eating your margins just a little bit more, so you don't have the headache of losing someone good, having to find someone else who might be as good, retrain them, and it's so many more headaches not paying that little bit of a premium. So I would find out what other people pay, and whatever that quarterly bonus is, make that the premium that gets them over what your competitors do pay. So, I would find out. I'd always like to have majority of my admin people or operations people are base, but maybe 30 to 40% is those quarterly bonuses that they earn. So they've always got to be essentially out there working for that, good part of their salary. But if they earn that money, it should be better than what you can get somewhere else. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm a big believer in slightly overpaying versus, again, even being right on point with your competitor. Be a little bit better, but expect more too, right? Get the best people. If you have the best people, expect a little bit more too, but pay them for it. Next question comes in from Robin. Ryan, I'm following Dave Ramsey's baby step program as I'm making great progress in eliminating debt. I think about how much I will save for a rainy day. After the credit cards are paid off, my expenses every month are under $500. Do you recommend saving $3,000 for my savings or more than that? Thank you. Look, save what you can save here. I don't know what your debt situation looks like, Robin. Let's take a look here real quick. Which I'll have right in. every month or 500. You're saving 300. I mean, look, I guess my question here is, Robin, I'm not 100% clear on. I would get your debt paid off first. I mean, if you have your credit cards are paid off, make sure that's all done, and then your expenses are 500 a month. Keep 6 months worth of savings in account for an emergency fund. You should always have that. But above and beyond that, I would be saving. If it's not debt and you're getting your other expenses covered, I think definitely continue to put as much in that savings as you can. If you can do 3,000, I don't know if that's a year or a month. Do it. Get it done. Get that money working for you. Get it compounding. So I think get rid of the debt first, because if you have credit card debt and you're paying 10% interest, just get rid of it. There's no investment out there that's going to outperform what that debt is. So make sure you just get that all cleared out, and then whatever's left over besides that cushion that you're going to keep in your bank account, I'd start investing it and look at different ways you can do that, whether it's a retirement account, Roth IRA, a regular savings account, but get that money put away for the long term would be my advice on that. That pretty much covers it for questions. And I'm hoping this is live right now. I think people are on. It's so weird with this new Facebook setup, just FYI. But look, I hope everyone's doing well. I think these are great questions, and I think just to wrap up again, things are looking brighter in the economy, even though the data isn't great right now, but we're getting past that. I think that's a great thing. And I also think with regards to your practices and your businesses, I love the idea of paying people on performance, letting them understand the economics of your business so they can be more invested in it. And I think, furthermore, don't be cheap when paying your employees. If you have good ones, make sure you pay them well. I think just good rules of thumb today. Everyone, as always, I love doing these things. We'll do another one in a month. If you have any questions for me, just hit me up on the Facebook group or whatever. DM me, send me a message. I'm happy to answer all your questions. And always be safe out there. And hopefully it'll be end of May when I'm doing this next time. It's like 80 degrees outside and the economy's half open, and we're getting ready for summer. So lots to look forward to. Look forward to speaking with everyone soon. Thank you.